Here's what happened. I'm in the emergency hospital waiting room and I'm asking myself, like, what the fuck am I doing right now, dude? Like, why am I here? Like, what's going on? Earlier in that night, I had what I feel was a panic attack. Like, my heart was beating out of my chest. I felt overwhelmed. I was like, shit, something's wrong with my heart. I think I'm going to die. I'm like, Mom, Dad, someone please take me to the hospital. Like, we got to go. And then I remember getting in the car and then going over to checking in. And then now I'm in this waiting room. I have this time and I'm like, dude, like, you're here right now. Like, what the hell is going on? Because then I felt that tension release because I got to this point. From there, I was like, man, at that point, I'm like 28 or 29. And I'm like, dude, you're living with your parents, like, and you're financially dependent on them. What came up for me was like, dude, you got to make a change. Like, you got to get the hell out of this situation. Like, what is going on? What are you not addressing? And what kept coming up was like, I wasn't telling the truth. Like, that just kept coming up for me. I'm like, dude, you aren't telling the truth right now to your parents. About all the lying that you've done that led you to your 2018 burnout, and then the mistakes in lying that you did afterwards. You've been lying to them. You've been lying to a lot of other people, but you hadn't told them the truth. And the thing that kept coming up was the truth of like, I'm not okay, that I actually need to figure out how to ask for help and get that help to be able to get unstuck, because I wanted to move towards who it is I wanted to become. Even though I didn't really have a clear picture of what the hell that was, or like I didn't have the vision set up yet, or like wrote it all out. I didn't know by that point, but I just knew I wanted more out of life. I felt that I was capable in being able to have that. And I knew it was going to take me making a change. So when you don't listen to your body, what happens is you get to that extreme situation where you're in the hospital. Like for me, it was in the hospital waiting room, whatever the extreme is for you, where your body's like, I need to tell you something here because it's going to let you know. And for me, I felt so much anger in that moment. There's anger towards myself, but now looking back, I realized there's anger from my body of not listening to it and recognizing the signs that I needed to make changes in my habits. So there's that part of it where we don't listen, that can happen. And then there's this other part where if you have to recognize what the body sensations mean, like they could come up and hit you, but if you don't know what exactly that means and how to change, then the actions that you're doing and the habits that you're doing in that moment, it's not going to then be able to serve you. So I want to get into helping you to recognize the body sensation phase that can help you to stay consistent with your habits. And it's one that can get confusing for a lot of people, that causes you to stop staying consistent with your habits. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Before getting into it today, I want to say thank you for listening to this episode. And if you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show. My commitment to you by you doing that is to focus on making this the best show it can be, to be the best storyteller, the best researcher, best interviewer for the guests that are coming on, to imagine where this started to where it is now. I'm incredibly grateful for your support in this. And by you listening, you're making an impact in helping to get this mission out to more people. And my focus is to continue to help in your life to make burnout extinct so that you can move towards who it is you want to become, the vision you have for your life. So thank you. To get into it for today, I want to talk about this problem of the stop-start cycle of habits, where you all of a sudden are doing, something that you want, let's say working out, you want to work out consistently, and you started to work out for like 4 or 5 days, usually on average. It can happen where you have that amount of days and then you get hit with the resistance and this like exhausted feeling, and you're like, fuck, all right, I really don't want to show up right now. I just don't feel like it. So instead of doing that, I'm going to do something of just lounging around, hanging out on the couch, chilling, and watching some shows. And then all of a sudden, 1 day goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days, 4, and it just piles up where all of a sudden you're not sticking to that habit of working out. And then let's say a few weeks go by and you're like, well, shit, I should probably work out because I'm feeling really shitty right now. I should probably get back on that. And then it becomes this like just cycle that happens. And what I want to address is the angry phase in habit formation for that, and the process of habit formation, so that you can recognize that there's a natural resistance that's going to come up from the body. It absolutely is natural, and I'll break it down a little bit more. And then I want to share with you how you can recognize that, because there is a big difference between pure exhaustion, where that's important to take a break. It goes back to nobody's perfect, and you do have to have that day to recharge when it's necessary. And then knowing that difference between the one where you just don't feel like it How do you then show up on those days? So I want to break that down a little bit more. I want to share with you this idea of the momentum and maintenance phase so you can understand this a little bit better. And of course, that connects it to burnout. And then I want to break it down for typically what can happen for when you're pushing through the resistance, and then a new approach that you can try with moving through the resistance rather than pushing through the resistance. And then I'll share with you some of the reasons that resistance could be coming up. I think that's really important. I'm going to break it down for 3 so that you can be reminded of that, and also break it down for what the sensation actually feels like. So you know, like, what to expect going into it for staying consistent with your habits. And I'll share with you my own stories too. One that, like, where I felt the resistance, it came up real hard for me. And then I want to go through with the remainder of being able to help you with a few exercises where you can start to reconnect more with your body, especially if you've struggled with this and you feel really disconnected, if that's from your soul, from being able to feel the emotions. If you were like me, most of my life, I numbed out a lot of my different emotions and feelings, the subtle ones, and only what I could experience were extreme emotional changes in my life, which wasn't helpful because then I wasn't understanding the day-to-day, what my body was feeling, and then how I can connect with that to be able to make changes where necessary. So I'll get into that too. Let's bring it on back to recognizing this angry phase. So I want to break it down for the habit formation process. There are 3 phases from a body-based standpoint that I've recognized. First one is the awkward phase. This is where it's going to be awkward for you to incorporate any habit within your life that is wanting to support you. So you have certain habits. I mean, I'm thinking about that. The New Year's resolutions are coming up here soon. So you could be having ones coming up where it's working out. You want to stay consistent with working out. It could be journaling. It could be making sure you're staying hydrated, getting enough water in, or eating, foods. Like, I think about that. Going back to these basics. So, like, okay, you want to make sure you have foods that are energizing for you, that you're eating, and that you're getting. It could be a certain amount of meals in, certain amount of food in, to make sure that you feel nourished. So those could be some of the habits you want to focus in on and stay consistent with. Now, there's that awkward phase where you got to figure out how to incorporate this within your everyday life. Let's say you want to go out for a morning run and you're thinking, okay, what is going to be the time? Like, is it 7? Is it 6? Okay, I got to now add in when I'm starting my work. You could have a partner in your life and you got to deal with their routines. Could have a family, kids that you have to navigate, and other responsibilities that come up. So it's that awkward phase where the first few days is trying to figure out how this is going to be added into your life, into your everyday life. What's really helpful in that phase is you have a lot of momentum built up of you making a decision that you want to focus in on this habit. And so that's exciting for the body. It's energizing. It's something new. So that creates variety for a human need and gets you ready to move forward. What then happens is you have a few days of that and you're testing, figuring out how it's going to fit. And then that's where resistance comes up naturally. And I think that's so important for you to just realize naturally there is going to be resistance. Like, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not your fault. Like, it just happens. And there's a reason for that I want to address. The resistance that can come up is a big one is because of uncertainty there. So there could be uncertainty that comes up from the body because you were about to add a new habit, and that new habit is so close to getting into the next phase, which is autopilot phase. So it's getting so close to becoming really consistent with your everyday life, like you're brushing your teeth, similar habit where it's just automatic. And that can be scary because with anything new, that creates uncertainty. And with uncertainty, you have a little fear that builds up within that. And from there, it's then for the body, it wants to keep you safe. So what does it do is it tries to go back to how the way things were before, which is when you didn't have this habit. So that naturally will come up for that resistance. But it's important to differentiate between when you're feeling really exhausted, which if you've done it just for a few days of going for a run for, let's say, a minute or 5 minutes, and you're starting off, which I go always back to start small so you can recognize the difference with the resistance. But if you're just doing that for a few minutes a day, and you're feeling that exhaustion and that resistance, you got to notice the difference between the two. Because I think about that. If you never ran before and then you're starting to run, yeah, maybe it could be exhausting where after 5 days you got to take a rest. But if you're used to running, pretty regularly throughout your life, and then now you just want to get back on track and you notice that resistance hits in the 4 to 5 days, that's a sign for you that, oh, wait, it could be because of this uncertainty that's hitting me. So that could be one reason. I'll share a few more a little bit later. But I now want to get into the momentum and maintenance phase, understanding this for life. Because for your habits, you're going to have energizing habits and you're going to have draining habits. And the goal is to create more energizing habits in your life in order for you to make burnout extinct and to not hit burnout. So it's that spectrum every day where your habits decide where you land, as well as external factors that helps to decide if you're going to be dragged by the burnout beast to hitting burnout or moving towards making burnout extinct, where you feel like Hercules and on top of the world getting things done, which is where I really want you to spend a lot of your time, in that area. So it is like a race car. I think of Formula One. I've been watching that show a bunch. So with Formula One, you get the cars going around this racetrack, and that is the momentum phase. This is where things are happening. You're moving. You're feeling the growth. You're feeling excited. It's just things are on fire. And then for the car has to go back into the pit stop to get the pit crew to come out and take care of the car in order to get back on the track. And that phase, when it comes into the pit stop, that is the maintenance phase of your life. We all experience this phase where we have to have certain habits that we perform that are energizing for us, that are recharging for us. I know how much you want to take care of everyone else, make sure everyone else is good. In that same day, you've got to also take care of you in different ways in order to make sure that you are not moving towards hitting burnout, where then if you hit burnout, you're not going to be able to help anyone out. So that's a really important reminder that we all go through these two phases. That's so important for you to recognize that, because you'll have the chapters of life where you're like, shit, things aren't like, I'm feeling like things are more of a struggle. It's hard. Well, that could be because you're ignoring the maintenance phase, and just being able to come back into that and recognize what are your burnout proof habits that are energizing for you, that will recharge you, and focus in on those will be helpful to get you through that and then get you back into the momentum phase. Now to break it down for the typical mindset that can come up. And there's a lot of messaging out there that does piss me off, because I'm an all or nothing guy. Like that I grew up with, of like, okay, I'm either all in or all out. And I've really had to work hard on understanding it's both. Like I can leverage my all or nothing for certain moments of committing to things and like being able to say, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to make it happen. And that is awesome. That's such a great way to leverage that. But then there's that whole approach of, okay, if I can't get my full workout in, my 60 minutes I had planned, if I could get 59 minutes, that's then a failure. And that's ridiculous. Like that's so stupid to think about in that way, because I just got 59 minutes. Rather than, so basically what would happen is I'd either say, okay, if I can only get 59 minutes, I'm not going to even show up. I'm not going to even do this thing because I need to do 60 minutes. So I can either do 59 minutes or do 0 minutes. Which one's going to be the better option? Like, logically, common sense, that 59 minutes is a better option. But there's that urge for me to just not show up at all. And that is where we can get into this mindset of that all or nothing, of like, okay, when the resistance comes up, it's the push through and put the rep in no matter what. Like push hard, push hard, push hard. And for me, I got bought into, okay, that means I have to ignore then all of these sensations that are coming up from my body and numb as much as I can and just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. The issue with that is the body is going to let you know one way or another at some point. And burnout doesn't happen overnight. So this stuff does compound over time, but eventually the body's going to let you know of like, we gotta have a full stop. For me, that was 2018 where I hit my burnout after the social media conference, because I kept pushing and trying to take care of everyone else in all the other situations, but not taking care of myself in that process. And so eventually the body was like, you're going to be physically and mentally exhausted and done. And you're not going to be able to actually continue to work on this and continue this company. And that's where I had to stop and close it down I couldn't do year 2 for the event. And I don't want you to get to that point. So there is a difference that I want to share with you of how you can recognize what is coming up for your body in order to make sure that you move through the resistance, but you also honor the signals that your body is giving you. Because instead of pushing it and like feeling exhausted after the push and you're just feeling drained, you're like, shit, this sucks. Like, fuck my life. Like, this is awful. Instead of having all that talk that comes up that can then cause you to move faster towards hitting burnout with the chronic exhaustion, you can recognize what is going on and understand, okay, there are some natural phases in this process natural resistance that's going to come up. When I can recognize that and understand what that means for myself, then I'm not wasting so much unnecessary energy, and I can actually move through it and keep showing up, putting the reps in, taking the rest days where needed, and keep going. Because I go back to, the more you understand something, the less scary it is. And more importantly, the easier it is to navigate. So let's bring it back to the resistance. Okay, so you have this phase, the momentum phase, or not the momentum phase, in the angry phase of habit formation, that's the middle phase. So there's awkward phase, angry phase, and then autopilot phase. For a habit, to describe it for you, for an example, for autopilot, that could be like brushing your teeth. That's the best one I can use, is brushing your teeth. Taking a shower, it could be another one, where it's just automatic. Like, you do it, it's something you don't have to think about too much. There's less friction there, a whole lot less friction there, in order to perform the habit. So my focus is to help you to get to that point. The one the bridge you gotta cross is the angry phase. This is where a lot of people then drop off. So I want to share with you, there's 3 potential reasons you are feeling resistance from the body. And I want you to acknowledge I want you to recognize what those are. And then first, before even getting into those 3 reasons, let me tell you what it could feel like with resistance. So a few things that could come up is you could feel this overwhelming pressure. I think back to, there was one habit I wanted to focus in on, which was to get outside for at least 2 hours. I had seen a stat where like 90%, the average American spends 90% of their time indoors, and just seeing all the negative effects for our health. Think about the effect it has mentally, to physically, to staying indoors, not being able to connect with nature, getting outside, getting the fresh air that can come in, and being able to expand your view of the world around you and realize you don't have to be stuck in this little box. There were so many benefits of getting outside for your health. And I think about that with movement, being able to move, and that helps for the body to literally produce more energy. So for me, I set out, okay, I'm going to spend at least 2 hours outside. What happened though is, for me, I like to wait till the last minute, right? So I remember there was this one night where it was super cold out, windy. This is when I was living with my parents. It's Maryland wintertime. I'm like, fuck, like bundled up, like just hanging out in the front door, just on this porch, chilling. And for me, I probably looked weird for other people that were in the neighborhood, but I'm just like chilling here, being like pissed off. What I felt were some of these body sensations, which was the overwhelming pressure that was just like building up inside. You feel this pressure, and you got to release it in some way. It could be also tension that comes up. And the best way I can describe this from a visual, because I connected with my own inner child, is like this boy wanting to throw a tantrum. It's like that boy within us of like the inner kid. You know, I think about that inner kid when I was like little, where I'm like, fuck, like I just want to scream and like let out this energy and tantrum it up and just like get crazy. And that energy comes up for resistance. It's like this bottling up energy. And I want to tell you that that is natural, to feel that pressure and that tension. And what can come up are 3 reasons for that. The first one could be boring, where it's boring. I think about that with spending 2 hours outside for a habit. I'm bored out of my, like, I'm just doing nothing. Like, I'm just hanging out here. So for me, that is where variety could be helpful, where for the next day, I could actually go and get a workout in outside. I could maybe do some work, for like get my computer outside and do that. Like, that's where variety could be really helpful. And then even in the moment, as I'm doing that, maybe I walk around a bit, change it up, get some exercises in to help break it up a little bit. Or I could actually break up the time in the whole entire day. So I could have a certain amount of time I'm spending outside in the morning, certain amount of time in the afternoon, certain amount of time in the evening. But that could be one reason you're feeling the resistance. And that's where you can recognize, okay, is it boring? The second reason could be you don't feel like you're able to do the habit. So you're getting frustrated. And that's more related to like something like an exercise for a workout, where you just aren't, it's not quite clicking. And so you're getting frustrated, getting pissed off. You're like, fuck, why isn't this working? And then that's where the pressure and the tension can build up too. So what happens for this, you have a few ways to respond to this, depending on your comfort level. I know it can get a little weird for some of the stuff I'll share with you, but you got to do what you got to do to move this energy out. And I will tell you, I was in a similar place where I was like, oh, I can actually do this. Like, it's not weird. Like, that's natural. So I want to share some of those, and you get to choose which one you're comfortable with. The basic level, you could just shake it out, like similar to getting ready for a big game, you know, or a big moment. You like shake out your whole body. You think about a dog like shaking it out. There's that natural response to just shake the energy out, to move the energy so it gets unstuck. And that can help relieve the pressure and that tantrum feeling, the tension feeling that we could feel, that we want to like throw our hands in the air and be like, I'm done with this shit. So that could be a basic level to kind of get that started. You can just shake out your hands, shake out your legs, just, hop around a little bit, have fun with it. The other levels they could do it is actually letting out a sigh. So as you do an inhale with your breath of inhale, you just release, like that could be where it's needed, just like, kind of just letting it all out. The other thing that you could do is literally scream. I mean, there's the ability to just like let it out like a big scream, like I'm not gonna do too much, but like letting it out. That's for me. I noticed probably because I'm a professional speaker and then I'm doing this podcast. Voice is really important for me, so that's my way of letting out energy is through my voice, and just letting it out through a scream is really helpful. Like I used a pillow, so I didn't have to make massive noise in the house. That helped me to make it feel more comfortable. And again, I was like kind of weirded out. I'm like, I don't want to look like a crazy person, like screaming, but actually it releases the energy out. It's like a pressure. It's like popping the cork on a champagne bottle, like that. It just releases that energy out, and it releases out really fast too. And then that can allow you to then come back into the present moment and go back and show up for putting the rep in for that exercise and get back at it. And then the third one for the reason could be uncertainty. Going back to what I talked about, you're so close for a habit to turn into the autopilot phase. And what then can happen is the body's going to resist that and be like, oh my God, I'm so scared because this is going to be uncertainty for a potential new path for your future. And that can get overwhelming for the body. And that's where resistance can come up of like, oh no, I'll keep it how things are. And that can be scary. And so what could come up is different emotions with that and just honoring it. So what I've come to do now, which back then you wouldn't catch me doing it, it took me a while to get comfortable with this, is I'll do a hug. I'll hug myself. I'll put one arm over the other, just hug myself. What you could do if you don't feel comfortable doing that is like cross the arms, kind of look badass, be like, all right, I'm going to just cross the arms externally, but internally what this does is it creates a pressure on the body of support. It just feels like, you're supported, and then emotions can come up. Like anger can come up, and that's where you can also scream again or let it out and just be like, or like do a deep inhale and then exhale and just be like, ugh, to make it a less feeling like you're a crazy person. And then sadness could come up where you want to just cry. You don't even realize why you're crying, but you just want to cry. And so you can let that go, and you can just you can cry. Like that's okay. I think giving permission to that to cry, and you can do that in your own space. You don't gotta do that with other people. Like just do that for you. But that emotions will bubble up because when you create safety with that hug for the body, it then feels comfortable to release that energy out. And that will come up when it's feeling when the body feels scared. Is just those different emotions can come up. It can also be ways to kind of try to get you to go back to how things were, because it could be like, oh shit, I'm crying, like why the fuck am I crying? And you may think something's wrong, and that may cause you to stop doing the habit. So there's also that way of the body trying to get you to go back to how things were. But let the emotions flow. And then what's really important in those moments is to create flexibility for you with this habit. So let's say you had planned a 60-minute workout. Try then 30 minutes. Get 30 minutes of the workout in and be able to show up. If that's all you can do is 30 minutes, awesome. Show up, do the 30 minutes, and then that's a check for putting the reps in. If you can only do 5, do that. Like keep showing up no matter how small, especially in that phase of resistance. That'll be really important. And then it's a reminder to yourself that when you go through this, it's temporary. This is the temporary phase to get you into the autopilot phase, which gets really exciting. Doesn't mean like that's where there's going to be less friction there, which would be awesome for you to keep showing up for putting those reps in. And again, perfection doesn't exist. So you will take either strategically the rest days, or you'll have things where life just hits you and challenges come up where you're going to have to take those rest days, but it'll be a lot easier to get back on track and stay consistent with the habit. And I go back to this Alex Hormozi quote, which is so powerful, which is now is not forever. And that's such an important reminder for you. Like now is not forever. And especially where you start isn't going to be where you end up with this thing. And it's by showing up and putting those reps in to stay consistent, where you're able to then see the progress in your life and the results that come from that. And that is something I want to give you as a gift of like, you are absolutely capable of being able to do this and showing up and putting those reps in. So now I want to get into the exercise for body sensations. And this is going to be just a few minutes for you to reconnect with your body and just recognize it'll be a starter. You can always come back to this to be able to reconnect. So what I want you to do is, depending on how you're listening to this, you could be driving, could be, walking, could be sitting down, laying down, however, just, you don't have to close your eyes, keep your eyes open like that. You don't have to do that, but just bring your awareness starting into your head and bring your focus there. Like, what are you noticing in your head? Could be some tension, could be some tingles that could be coming up. Spidey, it could be little spiders is what it could feel like on your head, but just bring your awareness into your head. And then you may not feel anything at all. And that happens. So just recognize your head, and then we're going to do a body scan. We're going to move on down, moving down to your ears. Start to feel your ears. You can even try to wiggle your ears if you can. I'm going to try to see if I can do that. Then we're going to get to the nose. You can scrunch up the nose a little bit, move it around. Get that going. Kind of move around your face a little bit. Get that sensations going. Then we're going to move to the mouth. And just kind of move the mouth a little bit, kind of like you're chewing or something. Just move the mouth up and down a little bit. And then this is the moment we're going to take a deep breath. So take a little deep breath in. And then the release. Awesome. And then we're going to move on down. Keep focusing on deep inhale. And release out through the mouth. Oh, yeah. Bring it down to the throat. You can even move the neck a little bit, back and forth. Shoulders. Just move on down. Move those shoulders up and down. And get into the arms. So shaking those arms out a little bit. You don't have to shake them out real fast, but just slow movements. So movements to reconnect, right? Come on down. You might start to feel a little relaxed. You might even start to feel some exhaustion kind of building up because you're connecting back to your body. That's natural. That can come up. Then we go to the stomach, feeling that tension in the stomach. There might be some tension there. We're letting it release. You could just do the belly roll. Think about that. Get my belly rolling. Getting that going. Then moving down to the hips, groin. Moving on down to the knees. I'm going to just move on down to my legs now. Moving back and forth for my legs. Intentional movement here. Ankles. Oh, yeah. Move the ankles around. Ooh, I just heard my hip popped a little bit. There we go. Then I got my toes, wiggling my toes a little bit. And also at the same time, I'll wiggle my fingers. All right. So that was bringing it back into presence, a quick reconnect with the body. And now what I want you to do is visualize something in this moment. I want you to visualize, what is that better habit that you want to focus in on? The one that you're like excited to get ready to move forward and stay consistent with. That could be the workout. It could be getting out for a morning walk, having that time to spend with your partner for a sunset walk. It could be the journaling, getting water in for hydration, like getting a gallon of water in could be one, or getting your 3 meals in a day, feeling like you're eating food that's nourishing for you. Whatever that habit is, bring it into focus now. Just think about it. And then what I want you to do, this is going to be really important, it's going to be quick. I want you to, when I say what I'm about to say, I want you to notice where you feel tension and pressure building in your body. Because this will remind you, for when you feel resistance, most likely you'll feel from the same place. And that's when you can recognize, oh, I got to go back to, is it boring? Am I feeling frustrated because I'm not able to get this habit in? Is there uncertainty that I'm feeling from the body? Because this is going to be your cue. This is going to be your cue of like, oh, I'm feeling the resistance and it's in the same spot as what I'm just about to feel. This is me recognizing I'm in the angry phase. Okay. So you ready? It's the pressure and the tension. Pressure and the tension in the body. You're connected. All right. What I want you to imagine and think about is this better habit, you doing this every single day for the next 365 days. Feel that. Where's that tension building? Where's that pressure? You might be super excited. There could be a super excited energy, but there's tension and pressure that's building. It comes up and it may be subtle. It may be really hard for you to connect with this. So I want to acknowledge that. You may not feel like a lot you might just feel like a little ting. It might be a little spark. It might be a little, I'm trying to think of another word for this, but it's this little spark that could pop up, or it could be intense. You could really feel the tension, feel the pressure. Either way, the more you come back to and reconnect with your body, the easier it is to notice where these tension and pressures are. But there's something that came through for you. Even if it was up in your mind, it could have been in your mind, could have been in your stomach, could have been shoulders, could have been legs. You felt some energy. Okay. We'll release it out. You can shake it out for your arms. We're going to do it one more time. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. All right, let's come back. It's a little hard if you're driving, so please make sure you still have your hands on the wheel. Like, please. I feel like I got to say that. Do not, like, just, you don't, for the shaking out, make sure you're still focused on the road. This next part is we're going to do it one more time. So think about that better habit. You got it? Okay, you got it. All right, now imagine every single day you're going to have to do it for the next 1,000 days. Where is that building? Where is that tension building? That pressure, where do you notice it in the body? Take a moment. Where do you feel that? Tensiony, difference, and it could be different sensations. You may not feel tension or pressure, but there's a difference. Where do you notice that? Okay, got it? All right. One more time. All right, here we go. One more time. All right, ready? Reset. Think about that better habit. Now imagine you're about to do this for the rest of your life. Decades. Where do you feel that? The tension, the pressure. Building up. Could be the shoulders. I think my shoulders, they start to go up. Think about it. Shoulders are going up. Ooh, I got to let those relax. That's where it is. Okay. Where is it for you? All right. Now make a note of this. No matter if it's just remembering it, you could, whenever you can get a chance, write it down. Take that moment to recognize this, because that will be cues for you. Is when you notice pressure building in that area or different sensations in that area, that can remind you that you're in this angry phase. Because that's where that uncertainty for the body, like, oh shit, this might be part of my reality moving forward. And then whenever you show up and put the reps in, I'm going to remind you, celebrate those small wins for each one of those reps, because the small wins, they lead to the big wins. And we forget that sometimes when we're in it, in the day-to-day life, and the shit hits us and challenges, I'm trying to think of like the shit show that comes our way that we have to just deal with and be a part of for a little while to move through. Remember to celebrate those small wins. That's because they do lead to those big wins. And I want to remind you, if you haven't heard it yet today, that I absolutely believe in you. You're capable of this. You absolutely can do this. You got this. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out to make burnout extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I don't take that for granted ever. And I'm so excited to reconnect again soon.